Welcome on back to Second and Short. This is our divisional NFL draft grades. We're going division by division, breaking down just how bad your least favorite team did.
Especially the Houston Texans.
If you missed the last episode, look at the top right, click the icon. You can see our breakdown of the AFC South. Right now, we're gonna move very close to them. We're gonna go to the AFC West, which is almost the Midwest for most of these teams, for Denver at least, in Kansas City. And we're gonna talk about these teams here. You know, we have the Las Vegas Raiders drafting for the first time as the Las Vegas Raiders, and we have the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, trying to keep adding players to this unstoppable team as it is right now. Let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers, though. Those other three teams I talked about, we'll get to them. Let's start with the Chargers here. And they hit a really interesting point in the draft where they were forced with a fork in the road. And it was go left, the way that everybody's been saying to go, or go right and do something different and try and adapt. And they went left. They did what everybody said they should do, and they drafted Justin Herbert. And we're not going to fault them for doing this. I mean, if you don't draft a quarterback, you could potentially do well enough to draft in the teens every year and end up in quarterback purgatory for years to come, where you're just reaching and never getting an established franchise quarterback. Is Justin Herbert that guy? We'll talk about that. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But in my opinion, you got to take a quarterback when you have a chance, just because you never know when you're going to get that chance again. Aaron, let's talk about who they drafted. Kind of give us up to date on each pick, since they didn't have a lot of picks.
All right, well, I'll just list them all off. In the first round, number 6, like you said, they drafted Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon. They then traded their second and third round picks to the Patriots for pick number 23 in the first round. They drafted Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma. In the fourth, they got Joshua Kelly, running back from UCLA. Then in the fifth, Joe Reed, a wide receiver from Virginia. In the sixth, Alohi Gilman, a safety from Notre Dame. And then in the seventh, another wide receiver in KJ Hill from Ohio State. I am one of the Justin Herbert truthers, and that I know that the truth that he's not going to be very good in the NFL.
Ooh.
I don't think he has the NFL. I don't think he has the right mind to be a quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he sees the field like you're supposed to. He has accuracy issues. He's accurate, but he's not consistently accurate. And his play is inconsistent. We talked about him, I think, in our mock draft. So I'm not going to go too in the depth with it. I think at number 6, I would have rather they took Isaiah Simmons. Even though they already have a very, very strong defense, Isaiah Simmons, I think, is a can't-miss prospect this year. Or they could have gone offensive tackle. Any one of the big 4, I would have been happy. And then I think the Chargers got a lot of hate for trading in to get Kenneth Murray. But I really actually liked that move, especially since they didn't take Simmons with the 6th pick. I liked that they traded up and got someone who's going to come in and be a starter right away for the defense. What did you think about their draft, Tyler?
I thought they did a lot of things very well. Like I said, they went with the predictable pick in taking a quarterback. Herbert was the next best guy there, and they took him. However, once the Dolphins selected a quarterback, I mean, the Bengals obviously, but once the Dolphins selected a quarterback, I think the Chargers could have chosen to go a different route, and Herbert would have took a tumble down the draft board. I don't see anybody after them drafting Herbert realistically until about the 20s when a team trades up like they did. And they might have been able to have him fall all the way to 20, 21, 22 and trade up anyways and draft him. Now, you're right. He did have a lot of accuracy issues. However, he performed very well in the Senior Bowl. He looked good in the Senior Bowl. Maybe he just needed some different coaching. Maybe Oregon wasn't a good fit for him, you know, in the long run, coaching wise, to develop him as a better, more accurate passer, to see the field a little bit better. he gets to learn from Tyrod Taylor, who is a pro's pro. Like, he does everything well. And Tyrod Taylor's going to be able to be the type of guy to help bring him along, kind of like he did Baker Mayfield. Granted, that wasn't as long as it probably should have been. I don't think Justin Herbert, realistically, sees a snap this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Justin Herbert is definitely the next Jamarcus Russell or Brady Quinn, but I think he does need to start, or he needs to sit for a while. I don't think he should start this year unless they see some real drastic progress throughout the year. I think the Chargers are a decent place for him to go because they have Tyrod Taylor, who is a decent stopgap and can be that mentor for him. Tyrod Taylor, he's a guy that doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So I think it's a decent situation for him to go to.
Okay. Now, on to Kenneth Murray. I really like the trade up for Kenneth Murray as well. I agree. He is a natural born leader. He's a go-getter. He's a guy that's going to give you everything he's got in his body to get the job done. I think when you want your guy, you go up and get him. It doesn't matter really what you pay, as long as the result is a success in the end. Like, if he pans out to be a Pro Bowl linebacker, this trade doesn't matter. Them trading up a high second, a high third. In my opinion. He's going to be able to start ahead of Denzel Perryman. I don't know. I think he should play middle linebacker. They have options here because he is very rangy and he can play all these different spots. They brought in Nick Vigil from Cincinnati. Perryman, Murray, Vigil could be a really good threesome there for them at linebacker. They've already got a great defensive line. They've got a great defensive backfield. This Chargers team, with that one addition right there, I know they drafted a safety late and everything, but that one addition right there takes that defense from being really good to potentially being great and moving the next step. Now, let's talk about their next pick after that. Joshua Kelly. We got a running back here, and I saw a lot of Chargers fans, as soon as they traded those 2 picks away, were saying, Austin Eckler's safe. They don't have another pick for the next 2 rounds. They're not going to go in here and draft DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor to take away from him. But then the first chance they get in the 4th round, they take a running back. And they take Josh Kelly. Talk about him.
Well, yeah, I think Austin Eckler was never going to be an every down workhorse. So I like them taking Joshua Kelly. He's a decent running back. He can also catch the ball a bit out of the backfield. He had over 1,000 yards both in 2018, 2019 at UCLA. So I think that's a decent pickup for them. A good compliment to Austin Eckler.
And then the last thing they did here is that I think Kelly's going to have to push for Justin Jackson, who profiles as a nice number 2 running back here. But they did add 2 wide receivers. They did add Joe Reed and KJ Hill out of Virginia and Ohio State, respectively. Joe Reed is very versatile, and this is the type of guy in the 5th round. What you want from guys is to get the most out of them. It's efficiency. And he was catching passes in the slot. He was catching passes out of the backfield. This guy was he's really good in return coverage. He had, it was 15 tackles. No, he had 17 college career tackles on kickoffs. So that's a guy that's going to be able to come in, play multiple positions for you, and be able to be a utility belt, more than just a one-trick pony, if you may. And then KJ Hill, a guy that fell for, I don't know why this guy fell. I cannot think of why he fell. I thought he was going to slot into the mid to late 3rd round. I thought this is a good opportunity to get a guy like KJ Hill who can make plays for you if you just get him into the open field. He doesn't have that beat you down the field speed and everything, and he's never gonna win those balls down 30 yards, 40 yards from the quarterback and everything, make those deep passes. But if you give this guy open space, he can create for you, and that's what he did at Ohio State.
Yeah, I like KJ Hill pick up in the seventh. I think he did fall a little bit, and I think he has a lot of potential in the NFL. He did play pretty well. He had 12 yards a catch, 11 yards a catch in the 2018-2019 seasons. He has a big playability. So I think he'll be a decent depth wide receiver, especially at a place where he can go and he's not going to feel pressured. I mean, no one's going to pressure a seventh round pick to come in and start, but he can learn behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I think he's in a good position there.
Overall for this team, they're going to get a B- from us. Mainly because I think they did the things. It's mainly the Herbert pick. It's not that it's a bad pick, but they were very predictable and they could have zagged when everybody zigged. And instead they just followed path and they went the predictable route. And I think they could have really shook up this draft and they could have maybe done a little more damage. And even with the trade up, I think they'd have been fine getting a quarterback, getting somebody like Eason or Fromm late in the draft. They could have really benefited from getting an offensive tackle because in my opinion, whoever they start, Trey Pipkins or Sam Tevy, Storm Norton, Trent Scott, whoever they start across from Brian Bulaga, whatever. They just got to figure that situation out. I think if they would have been able to draft one of the big three after Andrew Thomas is already taken at 6, they could have just changed the whole draft. They probably could have still gotten Herbert later. They could have drafted another quarterback late in deep rounds. I like Tyrod Taylor. I think the guy can start. I think they could have signed Cam Newton. There's a lot of things they could have done. Justin Herbert is going to get all the chances in the world to be the starting quarterback and the franchise quarterback for this team in the future. Might not be in 2020, but come 2021, it's going to be his team. So overall, I like what the Chargers did. They get a B- from us. Some teams did a little bit better than them, and the first team did a little bit better is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs, say right now they got a solid B, slightly better, mainly because this team is already set and they kind of made some impact signings along the way. Aaron, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and what they did in this draft.
Well, let's see. They had only 6 picks in this draft. Of course, they had the 32nd pick because they won the Super Bowl. They drafted the running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU, versatile guy who runs really well, good patient runner, great vision. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. If I'm being honest, it's a real flashy move. It's a fun move. The fans will like casual fans will like it. I don't think it was the right move. I think they needed more depth at cornerback. Jalen Johnson was available. I think that would have been a great option for them. I think that's who we mocked to them in our mock draft before. However, the next 2 picks, Willie Gay Jr., linebacker from Mississippi State, is a good, solid pick. And Lucas Niang, an offensive tackle from TSU, I think was a really good pickup for them. I think he could have easily gone to a team like in the beginning, middle of the second round. So I think that's a good value pick for them. I like that they added some safety depth with Jarius Sneed, safety from Louisiana Tech. They got in defensive end Mike Dana from Michigan, and then cornerback from Tulane, Thakarius Keys. These are all kind of just like depth picks. I do think that they should have gone cornerback earlier, like I said, in the first round. I also would like to note that now Chiefs have players named Thakarius, L'Jarius, and Chavarius. So that's kind of a little fun fact for your ears there. What do you think about that pick at 32, Tyler?
See, the thing with me is, what I like with Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that I don't think people understand how good this guy actually is. Now, I know a lot of people here are probably going to say that I'm just saying this, or other people are just saying this because he's with Kansas City, but this guy is very explosive. He can do a lot of different things for teams. Essentially, let's just think of Brian Westbrook, and obviously Andy Reid draw and everything. All the comparisons I'm seeing is he is a better version of Brian Westbrook. If you imagine what Brian Westbrook did for the Eagles, it was consistency. He was the guy that could bail out Donovan McNabb at any moment. He could run the ball to middle on first and second and third down. It didn't matter. He could cut to the outside. He was able to do anything. And he did everything very well. And that's where Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes in. He can do everything very well. Kansas City Chiefs lacked a dominant running back. Now, that's because they passed the ball so much. However, even when these running backs got their touches, they weren't able to break big ones after big ones or rack on those yards or break tackles and everything in open space. And Edwards-Helaire can do that. As a receiver, as a running back, he can play in the slot. He can do it all. Do I think he should have been the first running back taken? Maybe not. But he's got the type of talent to just take this offense to another level that they're already at. And the best part about this draft pick is I was reading a report that they asked Patrick Mahomes, who do you want? If we can get a running back, who do you want? And Hilaire's name was the first running back out of Mahomes' mouth. I don't know if these reports are 100% true. That's what I saw. It's what I read. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. But however, if the quarterback already trusts this guy, that means a lot to me as well. And I just think he's going to be very explosive, and he's going to be an upgrade over Damian Williams, who they have a little bit of faith in him. But Damian Williams has not had a long... We already talked about him. You can hear about our breakdown of Damian Williams in the off-season review of them. I don't think he's an every down back for Damian Williams. I don't think he's the guy that's going to take them in the future. Now, Willie Gay Jr. is there to help the Chiefs with run defense. That's what he's there for. And now, I thought linebacker was a big need for them. Some other people might not. Damian Wilson, one of their linebackers, he's going into his last year of his contract deal. You know, this team did not sign Reggie Ragland or Darren Lee. They lost some linebacker talent. And with this guy going to his contract year, he's going to be able to potentially win the job in year one or year two and help this team run defense. He can play every down. He's got good size. He's 243 pounds, 6'1". He is able to take this defense. And again, it's like the rich getting richer. He's a really good player joining a really good team. And then I'm a big fan of the Lucas Niang signing at offensive tackle. Both of their tackles, again, this is another guy, just like the linebacking situation. Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz are going into contract years. Getting a guy like this, Niang, who potentially could have been drafted earlier, is going to be able to develop for a year behind those guys. And again, great size. Like we're saying, all these guys have great size. 6'6", 315. He played really well at TCU. He's got really good length, great big size, and he's quick enough with his feet. They're not consistent, but his feet are quick enough to be a really good pass blocker, which I think is exactly what you need when you have Patrick Mahomes. So I kind of rambled there a little bit longer. What is the one thing that you wish they would have done?
Well, I touched on it before. I think as great a player as Edwards-Helaire is, and I think I agree with you. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's the perfect fit for this team. I really do wish they would have gone a cornerback at 32, and I think someone like Jalen Johnson would be a good pick for them. Even like, Christian Fulton was available. I wouldn't want them to take him away from the Titans, but that was also an option. So I think that one of those two players, Trevon Diggs, was available as well. So
I thought the Chiefs were a really big candidate to trade back just because of what they needed. And they could have easily traded back at any of the top 10 picks, and they could have still got those corners. I agree. Not drafting a cornerback after losing Kendall Fuller is interesting to me. They are going to be rocking out with, I don't even know who's going to start for them. Like Rashad Fenton, Rashad Breeland, Travarius Ward. I mean, they're going to have some guys there, but this might be a team that might pick up Logan Ryan. They need to go sign somebody now because they didn't draft somebody, but a lot of good pieces here. Again, the Chiefs are sitting around that B minus range, similar to the Chargers. If these picks pan out like they should, they're good depth guys, good role players, guys that can step in and make a big impact. The Chiefs did very well at establishing these things. Again, we wish they would have went cornerback a little earlier. However, when you get an opportunity to get a better player to position, running back, good on them. Let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. This team here was set up to do so much damage in the draft. And in my opinion, they failed. I gave them a decent grade. It's around the same range as the Chargers and Chiefs, the B-B range. However, this team, the Raiders, could have easily been one of the best drafts that they had because of where they were drafting, based on who went ahead of where they were drafting. I mean, essentially the NFL was giving them a nice little set for them to spike this ball and get some points here. Talk about their draft, what they failed to do, whatever. You keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I really was not a fan of their draft. I think they were in a great position to really improve in a couple of places, and they didn't do as well as they could have. Of course, I mean, this is easy for me to say right now because I'm just a dude drinking coffee in my underwear at home. And I mean, probably in another few years, we're gonna look back on this and be like, "Oh, what a silly goose Aaron is." But so in the first round, they had 2 picks. We remember they picked up with the 12th pick. They got Henry Ruggs, the third wide receiver from Alabama. And then with the 19th pick, they got Damon Arnett, cornerback from Ohio State. I just want to touch on these 2 picks. I really feel they were in position to grab that number 1 receiver, either Judy or Lamb, and they just pulled an Al Davis like I kind of thought they would. And I talked about this in the preview show, that if Al Davis was there, they would take Henry Ruggs. They would take Darius Hayward-Bay instead of Michael Crabtree. So, I mean, I was really kind of blown away that they actually went and got Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is a good wide receiver. He's going to be very good in the NFL. He's got blazing speed, but he's not going to get separation like Jerry Jeudy. He's not the wide receiver Jerry Jeudy is. He's not the big contested catch guy that CD Lamb is. He's not the big player that CD Lamb is. So I really can't. The only reason they took Ruggs right now is because of the speed, and I think that's wrong. And then the other pick in the first round, Damon Arnett. This is a guy they could have easily gotten in the second round if they had traded up. I mean, you had so many people available at quarterback. They could have gotten Trevon Diggs. Who else was available? Jeff Gladney, Noah Igbenegini. I mean, they really, Christian Fulton was available. They had so many players they could have got. And, I mean, Arnett is a decent player, but he was going to be available in the second, probably, maybe even the third round. So I have a problem with those 2 picks. Third round, they went another 2 offensive weapons with they had 2 picks in a row. Took Lynn Bowden Jr. from Kentucky and then Brian Edwards from South Carolina. Lynn Bowden is listed as a wide receiver, but I mean, he kind of last year was more of a running back. He actually had almost.
He's a gadget player.
Yeah, he's a gadget player. He had 1,500 rushing yards last year, where the 2 previous years he had almost no rushing yards and was more of a receiver. So I think he's kind of an interesting player to keep an eye on. So maybe we'll see him like come in on like gadget plays or like third downs and stuff like that. And then Brian Edwards is a good receiver from South Carolina. I don't have any problem with that pick. And then they had in the third round they took Turner Muse, linebacker from Clemson. 4th round, another Clemson player, offensive line, John Simpson. What I did like was the pick at the 139th pick was Amik Robertson from Louisiana Tech, also cornerback. This is a guy who was also projected to go a bit higher. So I think it doesn't completely make up for their first round incompetence, but kind of redeems them a little bit. And that's it. They didn't have any picks after that. No fifth, sixth, or seventh rounders. I'm interested in hearing what you think about what they did in the first round too.
So here's my thing. Besides the first round, I mean, total, like I said, you just said it right there. They had 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. They were able to potentially come away with one of the best drafts based on where they were sitting. I mean, everybody left them a wide receiver at 12. Left them. And while I like Ruggs, I do like Ruggs. I think Ruggs is a better complement to another receiver. I think Ruggs is a guy that can't go up against every number 1 cornerback. Yes. You've heard everybody talk about how this guy's got great speed. He runs these routes very well. He's got not the most complicated route tree, but the routes he runs almost better than anybody else, as do most Alabama wide receivers. That's what they do. However, I just don't think that he has potentially the strength to go up against some of these bigger corners. He's going to be able to dominate in the slot. He's quicker than any linebacker that's going to try and cover him. He's going to be able to beat any safety if he decides to go deep, which he doesn't really run those deep routes. Like, for people that are sitting here comparing him to John Ross or Tyreek Hill, he runs better routes than those guys. He's not a burner like those guys. He's fast, yeah, but that's not his skill set that he has to stick to. He's going to be a great get for Derek Carr. He's going to. I just think the Raiders messed up by not taking Lamb or Judy, personally. With the Damon Arnett, I had Damon Arnett ranked as my 10th cornerback on my board. By the time they drafted, there was only 3 corners taken, which in my eyes means they skipped over the next 6 guys. I agree with you. They would have been better suited taking a different cornerback. Arnett was one of those rare old seniors that played on this Ohio State team that kind of was just surrounded by elite talent. I mean, he had Okuda taking on some of the best receivers in the country across from him. You know, he had Chase Young and all these other great defensive linemen playing defensive tackle. I mean, Malik Harrison playing cornerback. He had all this elite talent around him that I think made him better than he actually was. This is a very big reach for me, as he shouldn't have been drafted until mid to late second round. He's not known for being a guy that's going to go up and get it. He had 5 interceptions in 4 years at Ohio State. He broke up some passes, about 8 every year. He didn't get a lot of tackles. He never really broke more than 44 tackles in his career. He's a guy that I feel like is a good complement corner. But in my opinion, their addition of Amick Robertson is potentially a better cornerback for them, just due to how physical he is and how he's willing to go up and just make plays. He's a little bit undersized. I get that. 5'9", 183 pounds. People are going to say what they want about him, but this guy, when healthy, is a playmaker. In 3 years playing at Louisiana Tech, he had 14 interceptions. On top of that, he's forced a couple fumbles in college. He's gotten sacks. He gets a lot of pass breakups. This guy right here has a potential. If he was a little bit taller, he'd be drafted higher. Them getting him in the 4th, I think, is an absolute steal. I think he's better than Arnett. And I think the Raiders here essentially, I don't want to dog on the Raiders, because the Raiders filled a lot of needs in free agency. You know, they've drafted well over the past couple of years. That defensive line looks good with Crosby, Farrell, Hurst, all draft picks. They brought in Malik Collins. You know, they brought in Littleton to play linebacker. They brought in Kwiatkowski. They brought in Demarius Randall to play next to Jonathan Abram. This defense is actually very good. I just think that they could have taken a bigger step forward with a different cornerback.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that. I think the Raiders still have a solid defense, like you said. I just think it could have been better than it is. Same with their offense.
But let's move on to the Denver Broncos, the team that we think did the best in this division. So, the Denver Broncos, what did they do here? Obviously, they benefited from the Raiders making what we say is a calculated mistake. And they decided to kind of make additions along all aspects of their offense to improve here. and give Drew Lock the tools to succeed.
Yeah, I really like the Denver Broncos draft. What they, like you said, they just completely took advantage of the Raiders' incompetence. We could put it. They took and they were projected, I think, by almost every mock draft I saw to get Henry Ruggs as their like kind of complement to Cortland Sutton. They ended up being able to get the best wide receiver in the draft in Jerry Jeudy, who should fit in amazing in the offense. And then the Henry Ruggs speed type guy that they were supposed to get, they ended up getting with their second round pick in KJ Hamler. He's a real explosive wide receiver from Penn State. Added some cornerback depth in the third with Michael Ojemudia from Iowa. And then another pick I really liked, which I thought was good value, was Lloyd Cushenberry, center from LSU. That was a big position of need, and I think they filled that in very nicely in the third round. Also in the third round, they got the defensive lineman from Arkansas, McTelvin Agim. And then they got a tight end from Missouri, Albert Okwugbunam, who's he should be a pretty decent tight end. He's not going to be their starting tight end because they have Noah Fant, but he should be a very good complement to him. And then they took in the fifth round Justin Sternad, who's a linebacker from Wake Forest, who I think is actually a decent sleeper candidate at the linebacker position. And then Nathan Muti, a guard from Fresno State, is an absolute beast. In the sixth round, they picked him up. I think he should be I don't think he'll necessarily start right away, but he's a very big physical specimen. I think he should develop into a pretty good player. And then a couple of flyers in the seventh round: Tyree Cleveland, wide receiver from Florida, and Derek Tuska, linebacker from North Dakota State. I really like the Denver Broncos draft. I think they picked up a lot of good tools for Drew Lock. I think they're counting on him to be the quarterback of the future. He showed a lot of promise last year. They got some protection for him with Cushenberry. I think they're putting this team in a very good position to come up and challenge the Chiefs for the division.
Yeah, the Denver Broncos here, I think, hit a home run in the first round. Being able to get Jerry Jeudy without having to trade up. Some people had him as high as like the number 7 or 6 best player in this draft. He graded out very well. According to ESPN, he had a 94 grade out of 100 here as one of the best prospects. Jerry Jeudy is an amazing route runner. This guy has been pegged as the best receiver in this draft class for a couple years now. And until recent, that's all has changed. Until then, though, it was the guy you wanted to get. 6'1", 193. This guy, like we said in our preview of him, he does everything well outside of the 50-50 ball. It was a very big surprise that they went out and they got him because I didn't think he'd be available. And the fact that they were able to get somebody that is so good at creating separation when they have Cortland Sutton, who isn't that good at creating separation, or at least didn't show that this past year, just adds a new dynamic to this team. Adding in KJ Hamler to be that speed guy, that small undersized burner, adds this team. I know a lot of Broncos fans or fantasy darlings out there, dynasty guys, love Tim Patrick, whatever, but I think Sutton, Jeudy, Hamler, say what you want about Font, I think that's a great set of receiving options for Drew Lock. Add in the fact that he has Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, and Royce Freeman all to carry the rock for him. There is no reason Drew Lock cannot succeed with these options. Isn't it so interesting and funny? And we'll get to this breakdown when we get to them. That the Green Bay Packers refused to give Aaron Rodgers anything outside of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. And then here we have the Denver Broncos throwing this second round pick from 2019, just saying, here you go, man. Here's everything you've ever wanted. This is Candyland for a quarterback. Go out and have some fun.
Yeah, they're like giving Drew Lock a Ferrari to drive, and Aaron Rodgers is still driving a 98 Corolla. So, I mean, that just shows a difference between front offices. And if Drew Lock doesn't succeed with the tools he has this year, then I don't think he'll last any longer in the league. So,
outside of those first two picks, obviously Lloyd Cushenberry the third, I think is a great get for them. I think he can line up any of those inside offensive line positions. He's going to be able to man those spots, take over the center spot when it's time. I think Natan Mutai is the steal for them. In my eyes, this guy was a second-round guard talent. However, he's not very durable. That's his only real downfall, in my opinion. He had an Achilles injury both in 16 and 18, and a Lisfranc injury in 2019. Due to that, that's why he fell. That's why. If he never had these major, these 3 of his last 4 seasons, he's missed time with lower body injuries. This guy has a great sense for the game. He's got great athleticism. He's got a high IQ. He's one of those stout guards that is going to be able to man a team, man a line for a long time. And I think if this guy stays healthy, the Denver Broncos are getting, in my opinion, the steal of the draft. If he stays healthy. That's the biggest key right there. But otherwise, this draft was awesome. I liked everything about it. Even getting guys like Justin Sinard in the late in the draft, adding in cornerback and nose tackle, and just getting all these like depth positions on defense to a defense that is very good. This defense is very good. Adding AJ Boye only makes this team better from free agency. I like everything they did for their team, adding Jarrell Casey as well. Due to those free agent acquisitions, they didn't even have to push the mold on defense in the draft as much. And I think them addressing the offensive line, which if you ask any Broncos fan, you should agree, addressing that offensive line was very important, and getting another receiver, let alone 2, was a good thing to get. This Broncos team, I'm not saying they're going to win the division because the Chiefs are still very good, but this draft is taking 2 steps forward.
Yeah, I don't think they're in position quite yet to beat the Chiefs out for the division, but I think they're on the right path. I think it'll be interesting to see their offense next year.
Alrighty, well, hopefully Drew Luck is more than what I say he is, and that's just a guy, and he's the next guy, the guy to take over this team. And if he doesn't succeed with these options, whoever they draft in 2021 or 2022, whatever, or if they sign Cam Newton, he's gonna thrive with these options. And that is why the Denver Broncos received an A grade for this draft. They did very well, addressed a lot of needs on offense that they needed to, got some great depth on defense. They really just didn't reach for any player, and they didn't really take unnecessary risks. And all those players that they took risks on late in the draft, if they pay off, are going to mean big, big things for this team. Alrighty, well, that has been our second divisional breakdown, our draft grades from the NFL draft for the AFC West. I am Tyler Louder. He is the Aaron Benn. We will see you guys next time.
But I just want to give a shout out real quick to Peanut Butter M&Ms.
Can I cut you off? I'm going to cut you off. That's a terrible take. Nobody listened to him. Peanut Butter M&Ms are terrible. Have a good night.